Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Whatcha Watching right here on the Hollywood Critics Association Facebook page, Twitter page, and YouTube channel. Today, I have two members of the organization here with me. We are going to be talking about movies and TV shows that we have watched recently, and whether or not we are going to recommend you to check them out. So, starting with the one and only Mr. Rama. And Rama is here from Rama's Screen. Welcome, Rama, back.
Thank you so much, sir, for having me on again. What up, everybody? This is yours truly, Rama. And go check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ramascreen1. And yeah, let's rock this.
Rama, let's do this. How do you pronounce your last name for everyone to know?
Tampubolon. It means Bruce Willis in Indonesia.
I will never. Tampubolon. Is that what you said?
Close.
Yeah, sure. And I'll never remember that either. So he is Rama from Rama's Screen. That is it.
There you go. That sounds perfect, buddy.
Thanks for doing this, of course, Rama. Always a pleasure. And then we have Mr. Tom O'Brien.
Hey, everybody. Hi there.
So where can the nice folks find you?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me, Tom?
Yep. Yeah, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. I was just saying, where can the nice folks find you?
Yes, they can find me at Next Best Picture. That's where I do podcasts. I do reviews on Exact Change Today, and I write about the film industry and the TV industry at goldderby.com.
Awesome. And you've been doing this for quite some time, right?
Yeah.
You're a master, a pro.
Yes.
And you're a bitter old man, as you put in your bio for the site.
Yes.
All right, guys. All right. So here we go. The three of us are on screen. We're going to start off with the first pick from Mr. Tom O'Brien. What do you have for us? What you watching?
I've been watching the new Perry Mason series on HBO. I've been following this project for a number of years because it was originally set to be a feature starring Robert Downey Jr. And that kind of fell through. And Mr. Downey's getting a little old for the part because this Perry Mason is fairly young. And so he and his wife signed on as executive producers and really got the project going at HBO. It's not the Raymond Burr Perry Mason you may remember. There's no someone running down the front aisle of the court at the end of the show just saying, I did it. That's not happening. Perry's not yet a lawyer. Right now, as you can see in the photo, he's a grubby private eye, and he's working for a lawyer, played by John Lithgow, who has a wire-rimmed glasses and a bushy white mustache and is a dead ringer for John Bolton. And he does investigations and really kind of does all the dirty work, going through people's garbage and taking sneaky photographs. And he's really on the down and outs. He lives from cash to cash, to job to job. I mean, he even gets his wardrobe off of corpses in the city morgue. Well, that looks like a nice tie. Here's 50 cents. I'll grab it. He's played by Matthew Rhys, and he's terrific. He's really, really wonderful in it. He really seems to enjoy the grubbiness of it. And Perry is kind of looked down upon by all the muckety-mucks who hire him. But he gets the job done, which is nice. Right now, he's working on a kidnapping case, which will probably span the entire first season, and which involves parents who may be suspects, who may not be, but they're very involved with a church led by Sister Alice, kind of an Amy Semple McPherson type, played by Emmy winner Tatiana Maslany. And the deeper he digs, the more shocking the revelations come, and it just gets dirtier and dirtier from there. I must say it has a great noir look to it. You know, a lot of wet streets, And it's L.A. in 1932. And surprisingly, there was an article in the L.A. Times the other day about all the real life sites and locations that they use for this. It's not CGI. This is the real thing. And it just has that mark of authenticity. It's beautiful to look at, great to listen to, great hard-boiled dialogue, and terrific performances. If you have not seen it yet, give it a shot. It's really unlike anything else. Very, very much. So enjoy Perry Mason.
Okay, thank you very much. Rama, did you see this show yet? I will tell you, I did not see it.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't. Wanted to check it out, but I haven't had the time yet.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah, I haven't checked this out yet either. I mean, I wasn't really chomping at the bits for a new Perry Mason show, but you know, that's what I love about these shows, because shows that, or movies, when we talk in this platform now, it opens up my mind to watching stuff. I have to actually thank you, Mr. Tom, for actually mentioning Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. It was a show that I put out, and I absolutely loved it. In fact, I'm probably going to do that as my second pick, so we can have a little back and forth about that, because I love that show.
I'm so glad you gave it a try. It's just terrific.
It really is. All right, Rama, what you watching?
I'm watching Netflix movie Eurovision Song Contest: The Story of Fire Saga. Woo! That's a mouthful. Now, here's the thing. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I was expecting the worst because, you know, usually with Will Ferrell, it really annoys me how his only bit is that he would yell and scream and yell out some more. You know, that's pretty much his running gag.
Yep.
That's all he does. So he does a little bit of that here as well, but it's not as annoying as how it was in the past, because this movie itself in its entirety is actually pretty enjoyable. So and it's jubilant and it's celebratory, and the rom-com of Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams, you know, you would think that it's an odd pairing, but they made it work. I mean, kudos to Rachel, especially. I mean, she's done comedies in the past, like what was that? The hot chick.
Oh yeah, she also did Mean Girls, and she was in Game Night.
Exactly, but here she meets up to where Will's level is. She meets where he is. That's fantastic, and that takes a lot of physical, you know, courage, because of the slapsticks, painful slapsticks that Will Ferrell movies usually demand or require. And she does a fantastic job, both of them. And there's a scene halfway through the movie, spectacular scene or a sequence, where it features Eurovision past contestants and winners doing a song along, a medley, as the camera goes from one room to the next. It was just so jovial, colorful, lavish, and vibrant. I loved it. And lastly, I'm a fan of rom-com. I'm a sucker for rom-com, but it's got to be a good one. And one of the formulas of rom-coms that always gets to me is when the boy or the girl kind of like longs for the other person, but the other person is too busy pursuing his or her ambition, kind of like Notting Hill or last year's Yesterday, even though Yesterday wasn't that great. It's like who on earth friend zones Lily James? You know what I'm saying? Nobody friend zones Lily James. So that's the thing with this, the Rachel McAdams looking up to Will Ferrell. That it's formulaic, but it's the thing that always gets me. So I love this movie.
Yeah. Tom, why don't you take it away first? Take it away first. What's your opinions on this?
I have two words for you. Dan Stevens.
Yes. I forgot to mention, yes.
This is Matthew Crawley from Downton Abbey. You'd never recognize him. He plays this Russian sleazebag, and he's so funny. Oh, my God. He wears the most outlandish outfits, and he thinks he's God's gift to women. And it's just delightful to see him break loose like that. He's got this ridiculously macho song, Lion of Love, that he sings. And he's convinced he's going to get Rachel McAdams. But Rachel loves Will Ferrell until she gets a taste of the good life. It's the whole cast is wonderful. Farrell fits in a little better in this than he did, say, in Downhill earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much in his wheelhouse, and I can't help but think that he got the project greenlit to go. And I'm very glad he did, because this thing is just a hoot. Put it on and, pour yourself a glass of wine and just laugh.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you, Tom. I think I'm glad we're all kind of on the same page with this, because to me, I watched that trailer and I was like, what a train wreck this is going to be. It looked awful. And I'm like, this is something that I should want to watch, because I love anything that has to do with singing and musicals and whatnot, which, again, why I love Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist so much. But this movie was just a riot, and it sticks with you, and the songs get stuck in your head. And it's weird because they have a mixture of like really campy, silly songs like Ya Ya Ding Dong, or you have like the song that she sings for Iceland at the end, which I just thought was so gorgeous and so beautiful. It reminded me of like Never Enough from Greatest Showman, just a beautiful ballad. Really sold on the film, and really, for someone who has been annoyed to death with Will Ferrell for a long, long time, and I'm tired, like Rama said, him, Adam Sandler, they've been doing the same thing over and over and over again. And to kind of watch him in this movie and not be annoyed by him was like pretty great, even though I will say that I can actually picture Adam Sandler or maybe even Jim Carrey being in that role and doing a little bit of a better job, because their personality is a little bit more likable than Will Ferrell, because you still see Will Ferrell a lot in this movie. That's my only critique.
And just a warning to people, it's a musical, and you see the Mamma Mia guy, one of the dads, the one who can't sing.
Oh, yeah. Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan. He's in a musical, but he doesn't sing in this. So you're safe.
Yes, you're safe. Very much so. Even though there is a throwback to an ABBA song in this movie, which then references Mamma Mia at another level.
I forgot to mention just one last note from me. Prior to this movie, I had no clue about Eurovision.
Me either.
I didn't know how big it was. My friend told me, like, dude, that's huge in Europe. And I looked it up. Even Celine Dion, who's not European, won on behalf of Switzerland. Apparently, they can recruit you if you're a hell of a singer to win on behalf of their country. And it's massive, and it dwarfs whatever we have here. The Voice, America's Got Talent, nothing compared to Eurovision.
No, I would agree. And I mean, the costumes, and it's weird because I know that it's something that people make fun of to a certain extent, but then there's also like a lot of passion involved because you're representing your entire country. And I thought they did such a great job with that in the movie, right? Because there's like some moments where you're like laughing at them, but then by the time you get into the end of the film and you kind of see this big, huge event go on, it's almost like oddly emotional, and you're like really invested in it.
Like you respect it, admire it.
Yeah, it's a really well done movie for a comedy, and I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's a similar formula to other Will Ferrell movies," which like I can see, I agree, it does have a similar formula, but this one I think the story's better, and like the performances are more committed, and everyone just seems to be along for the ride as opposed to just Will Ferrell along for the ride. So, all right, so I want to talk about my first Whatcha Watching pick, which is going to be Blow the Man Down. Now, we did our mid-season awards. We did our nominations. The actual winners will be announced tomorrow. And this was a film that I actually have not seen. I did not see before the nominations. And when I actually saw this movie come up multiple times and actually got a couple of nominations, I said, you know what? It's like one of two movies on this list that I haven't watched. So I need to check it out. And I have to say, this movie, as well as The Vast of Night, both of which are released by Amazon Studios, really nice run times on these movies. Short and sweet and to the point. And what I loved about Blow the Man Down is the fact that it feels, and I got to credit Kit Bowen for this because she did say this. She's like, it's like a female-driven Coen Brothers movie, and it really, really is. And these two girls on screen absolutely nail this movie, and their performances are terrific. They totally fit into the world. But I have to say, my favorite part about it is the three older ladies, one of which is played by June Squibb, who are like the town biddies who basically go around complaining about things left and right, left and right. And they have this whole thing against Margot Martindale's character, who seems to be running some sort of like brothel prostitution ring out of her hotel. It's a really twisted film, but it never overstays its welcome, and it's a lot of fun. It's a mystery. It's a comedy. It really blurs the lines of genre, and I really, really enjoyed it. Guys, did you either of you see this movie, and what'd you think?
I haven't, but when you said Margot Martindale, I'm in. Count me in. I would watch whatever she's in, man. She's so good.
Yeah, she's great.
When does she rest? She's constantly working. That's fabulous.
Exactly.
This has been on my list for a while, and hearing that, Scott, it's gone right to the top of the list.
Yeah. I just think it's so well made, and it's just it reels you in right from the beginning because it opens in a very untraditional way of like people singing, even though nowhere else in the movie is this like a musical or anything like that. But there's a musical sequence that kind of opens up the film, and you're kind of like wondering, like, where is this going? This is really weird and quirky and campy. And then you kind of you get sucked into this like mystery and stuff happens. And it's really one of those movies that I think is best appreciated the least you know about it, which is why I kind of didn't really go too much into the plot, because that really is what sells you, because you don't know which direction this movie is going to go in. But I do highly recommend it. Going back to you, Tom, what is your second pick for this week?
My second is a film that premieres on VOD on Friday. It couldn't be more different than Eurovision. It's a film called The Truth, which is the latest film from Hirokazu Koreeda, who won the Palme d'Or in 2018 for a wonderful film he did called Shoplifters. And
Tom, he dropped out, Rama. So you're gonna have to go up next because he dropped out. He was so into telling us what that movie was about. He left the stream. All right, Rama, go ahead for your pick.
We'll pick up with after I'm done. Okay. So my second choice is a new series on Netflix that premieres this Friday. I usually like to pick my second choice as something to promote, something that's coming up, and so this one is the Babysitters Club. Yay!
The Babysitters Club, the Netflix remake we all wanted.
And everybody go, aww. Now here's the thing. I've never seen the 90s series or the 90s movie adaptation. I kid you not. So I came into this pretty fresh. I was like, hey, I requested on Netflix through email, hey, can I get the screeners? Like, yeah, sure. I was like, okay, so that's how it was. And you know what? I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It's so sweet, adorable, witty, profound, good-hearted. The performances of the five leads are outstanding. And, the show has an upfront way of dealing with issues of life. But it's also not afraid to be edgy when it comes to the humor, while all the while maintaining its TVG rated family friendly vibe. So balancing all that is fantastic. It's a great job on the show's part, the writing as well. And there's always a learning curve in each episode that the characters go through, not only with regards to their sharpening their babysitting skills, but also applying their friendship to whatever personal thing that they are being challenged with. Like I said, the performances of the five leads, you would think that middle schoolers have it easy, right? Because they don't have to pay bills like we do. But they have their own dilemmas, and the way that these child actors or young actors, as I should say, perform, and they have full understanding of their characters' strong personalities, and that full understanding allows them to be remarkable on the screen. And so I highly recommend this. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but if you give Babysitters Club a chance, no matter how old you are, you will benefit from it.
So you're telling me it's better than the trailer, because that trailer was hard to sit through for 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
You know, Eurovision trailers suck too.
You know what? Is that the Netflix formula now?
Yes.
We're going to put out a crappy trailer, and then the show or the movie will be good. Okay.
Yes, that's the hook.
All right. He's back. He left you hanging. Tom O'Brien is re-entering the stream.
I'm back.
He wants to tell you about this movie that he just left you in suspense for. So, Tom, take it away, baby.
Okay. I was talking about The Truth, the new film from Hirokazu Koreeda. It's the first time he's worked outside of Japan. This is shot in Paris. It's the first time he's worked in a language other than Japanese. It's in English and in French. It's the first time he's worked with stars. Oscar nominee Catherine Deneuve, Oscar winner Juliette Binoche, and 4-time Oscar nominee Ethan Hawke. So they've got a heck of a cast here. And it's very much like it's a very family-oriented film. It's not necessarily for all members of the family, for your family, but it's about families and the ups and downs that can plague anybody at any level in society. Deneuve plays the queen of French cinema, Fabienne d'Angeville. And to many people, she is French cinema, which she would not hesitate to tell you. She just published her memoirs, and her daughter, played by Juliette Binoche, and her alcoholic TV actor husband, played by Ethan Hawke, and their little girl traveled from New York to Paris to celebrate it. But once Juliette reads the actual memoir, it's filled with lies and made up stories only to make her look good. And the first round of dealing with the lies and the truth happens. And through the entire story, people question whether someone else is telling the truth or not. And it's it's interesting to see how that affects the family dynamics. People begin to shift alliances and they find out somebody's lying or somebody is telling the truth. And you would recognize perhaps your family or some family you know in that. It's a very, very well-made film. I have to say I saw it in January at the Palm Springs Film Festival. And for anybody here who's been to a festival, you may recognize this. This was the 4th movie I had seen that day. It was a late night screening, and something as delicate as this, I just didn't get it. So I had the opportunity to see it again, and I'm very glad I did. It really is delicate in terms of family relationships, mother-daughter relationships, father-daughter relationships. Koreeda, is really, I think, the best director of children working in film today. And he gets a magnificent performance by a very young girl, Clémentine Grenier, as the daughter, who winds up getting more and more confident throughout the film, and winds up asking a question near the end that is really like a punch to the gut. It's a very interesting film. It's challenging, but we all need a good challenge in a movie now and then, and The Truth will provide it for you.
You know, it's interesting. This is a film that was playing at quite a few film festivals, which is ironic. This is where you first saw it. And which is interesting because I just looked up the Rotten Tomatoes score as you were talking about it, because I remember one of the reasons why I didn't wind up seeing it was because the buzz at festivals was not very positive. But to my surprise, it's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm very confused what happened between the festivals that I was at where this movie was playing and now where this movie is actually sitting at, like, I think an 86. So I'm glad, once again, great reason to do one of these shows, because if you're someone like me and Rama last year as well, who was on the festival circuit, you would think that this was not something worth checking out. But apparently that is not the case at all. People seem to actually really, really enjoy this. And thanks for putting it back on my radar.
I mean, VOD is a very good place to see it. I'm very happy it's at least going to be seen. And with those stars, you're not going to get a cast like this in the next few weeks anywhere. So if you're intrigued by the premise, it really does deliver. And please give it a try.
Okay, awesome. So real quick, I've actually been wanting to talk about this show for a couple of weeks. So my second Whatcha Watching pick is Space Force, which I was reminded about this today. Thank you, Angie Han, who posted on Twitter. She was like, do you remember a month ago a show called Space Force came out? And then like a bunch of people were like, no. And I was like, okay, well, that's like 95% of most Netflix content. Like, people do not remember Netflix content after like the first week or two that it's out, which is why I think, going back to our original conversation about Eurovision, what makes Eurovision such a treasure, just like The Irishman and a couple other movies that they put out, because they put out something new pretty much throughout the week, like almost every day throughout the week. And very few of those things ever gets talked about. And Space Force, I know, Rama, you saw it. I don't know if you saw it, Tom, but because I love The Office and I love Steve Carell, I was very much looking forward to watching this show. And it's okay. Like, it really, like Rama told me in a text message, you watch it because of John Malkovich and Steve Carell going back and forth like a bunch of, goofy guys. And that's about it. It doesn't, I don't know, like it's not as funny as it should be. It's not as clever as it should be. I mean, you got to give it to Steve Carell. He's so totally committed. But I don't know how much everyone else in the show is, and that storyline that goes on with his daughter is very, very weak. Yeah, it was kind of like a misfire for me, but like I still watched it to the very end, and I wouldn't say that I hated it, but I wouldn't say that it was great. So it was kind of like, if you have nothing else to watch, maybe watch this. But like, it's not a glowing recommendation saying like, oh, you need to watch this. It's kind of like, if you finished all the rest of the shit on Netflix, go ahead and watch this. I think it's better than like The Floor is Lava, though. Like something like that. I think you can watch Space Force over Floor is Lava. I think that's a safe bet. Tom, did you see this show? What do you think?
I did. I couldn't stand it.
Okay. I can totally see it. Ashley watched 2 episodes and she's like, I'm done. I'm not watching this anymore.
Yeah. For me, one and done. That's fine. I mean, and the opportunity to see John Malkovich in a sitcom was great. I think the funniest thing about it is that the Netflix series may have the copyright or trademark of the word Space Force for merchandising. And Trump's Space Force missed it. They completely forgot to trademark it. So this is going to be the Space Force merchandiser. So that's funnier than anything in the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Rama, go ahead. Give your 2 cents.
No, to your point, Tom, come to think of it, like maybe this is one of those cases where reality is like way funnier than the fiction. Like, it's just, I mean, Trump Space Force, I mean, you couldn't write a better comedy than that. So what Steve Carell and Greg Daniels, they just tried, but Trump has the comedy down pat. So yeah. I actually liked it on for the fact that I told Scott is that John and Steve were like old married couple, You know, they're just going. They roast each other, the way they banter. And it seems like John Malkovich is the only reasonable guy in the room. Everybody else is either clueless or full of themselves. Just so I like that. I like that side of Space Force, that satire part of it, and and the fact that it mocks what is absurd about our politics and government today in its own way. So when I look at it from that lens or angle, it's not so bad to me. The show.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because this is Greg Daniels, right? Is the guy who did this show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like he also did Upload, which I was also kind of lukewarm on. I guess a lot of people really did like that because that guy actually got into our nominations. But like these were like almost a case where I always call like out to like Ryan Murphy, where like when you watch Ryan Murphy projects and you can tell like there's one Ryan Murphy project that he cares about like a lot more than the other Ryan Murphy project. But this one was kind of weird because I felt like both of these shows had potential, but neither one of them really reached the potential. Like I walked away, I would think I would give Upload a little bit more credit because it's more, like different. It tries something unique as opposed to this being more of the same, like what you would expect from this type of show. But neither one of them like fully reached the potential that there should have been. And I don't know if in the second season of both these shows, if they're going to reach it, or even if Space Force will even get a second season, because I know the reviews were very, very negative, and I don't feel like a lot of people even watch this show.
No. And right now it's being buried under all the other Netflix shows that people are watching.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, every week there's something else. I mean, even, kind of just keeping on the Netflix conversation, it's fascinating because even like a movie like The Five Bloods, which I feel like a lot of people in our bubble, and that's what I always refer to this as, talking about this movie. But I feel like anyone outside of our bubble probably doesn't even know what the hell this movie is.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's coming up a lot on Netflix either in the queue. But I don't know. But that's a problem with Netflix in general. One of the things that I could say about like our nominations, I thought the movie, The Half of It, which Netflix released a couple months ago, was a great film. I saw a couple people put it in, but like nowhere enough to actually get it qualified. Nobody put All the Bright Places, which was like shocking to me, which I think was like a really great movie. But I think it goes to show, and this is no criticism, this is somewhat of a criticism on Netflix, but also like a problem with their marketing. They need to work better on that because they're putting out too much content to the point where like you can't even appreciate the good stuff, and people can't appreciate the good stuff. Even us in this industry don't remember about the content we watch on there because there's too much of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think about that overall? I mean, we've been in quarantine now for a total of 3 months. You've been watching a lot of content. Which streaming service do you feel does the best job of actually knowing what's out there?
Here's the thing. Believe it or not, just this weekend alone, I'm going to put out, at least by tomorrow and Friday, a total of 6 new shows or movies from Netflix.
No shit.
Yeah. So a couple of them I'm not allowed to say yet because you can't even say it right now under embargo. But yeah, that's like you said, too many sometimes, man, on a weekly basis. So I lose sleep. But here's the thing: it's quarantine. What else can I do? I'm a big fan of Netflix, and you know what? Before Tom chimes in, I want to say that the show that will blow Space Force out of the water, Scott, is the Babysitters Club.
Really?
Okay. You're setting a low bar, Ron.
Yeah. He's like, what's going to top that? Tiger King season 2.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I've been impressed with how Hulu promotes its stuff. It does not try and bury us with things, so that when Mrs. America is on, they really promote the hell out of that, and Rami and Little Fires Everywhere. It was I'm kind of impressed with how they really seem to take care with many of the projects that are shown on there. And I think it helps that they don't have quite the volume that Netflix has to promote.
True.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. When The Great was coming out, they did a fantastic job for about a week to 2 weeks ahead of making sure that the marketing campaign was going up, when the interviews were going out, when, I don't know, like just footage clips from the show came out, that I knew, even though I'm not really a TV guy, I knew when that show dropped. And it made me want to watch it because I knew it dropped. Same with Little Fires Everywhere, same with Mrs. America. And I think what they're doing, and I think it's so smart, and this is something that we even have within our movie theater experience, is that there's just too much content. And what you really need to do is you need to focus on one thing a week and really promote that and push it out. I don't understand what the fascination is about, like Rama just said, I have 7, 8 things to review this week that are coming out. Like, it's like too much stuff. Too much stuff, and not enough people get to watch it. And you're lucky if one of those 7 shows or movies makes headlines so that someone will actually watch it. So to me, you're throwing you're throwing money away, and you're hoping that someday someone's going to stumble through the queue and find it. I mean, I think of a show like Love, which was on Netflix, that I absolutely adored. But that show had no promotion whatsoever. I was telling Dimitri the other day that there was a Pee-wee movie that was on Netflix a couple of years ago. He's like, they had a Pee-wee movie? This is what the problem is. People don't realize the content is there. So they need to take a page out of Hulu's rule book and start promoting and putting out less stuff, especially now. We don't have any productions going into play for the next couple of months right now. So stop pushing all this crap out right away. Space it out. You can go all the way to December with the stuff you have. You have enough content.
You've got a captive audience. Use it.
Right.
And it can only help burnish the brand.
Yeah. So I feel bad because, I mean, I know their stock is going up and up and up right now because they're in a good place. But, I mean, the streaming platforms, like, I feel horrible for, like, Quibi. I mean, Quibi is like, that Dummy show that's on there is really good. That Survive show that's on there is really good. There's probably 2 or 3 other shows that I've heard were good, but no one talks about it because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're marketing. And the same with HBO Max. Rama, back me up on this. Love Life was on HBO Max. Fucking great show. Yes. Nobody talked about it because no one knew about it. They didn't. How do you not launch a service and not have Amazon and Roku on when you're coming out of the gate? The biggest 75% of the industry is on that.
Well, here's the thing. With Netflix. To your point, aside from Stranger Things, none of the other ones are events.
Right?
And then Stranger Things is like an event. They make an event out of it. So with your idea about spacing it out, maybe once content per week, or maybe one content per 2 weeks, that allows for the promotion or marketing to make that thing something like, oh my God, everybody's got to see it. So create the buzz, like an event. Yeah,
I agree, and I think that's what theaters are going to have to do, and I hope studios are smart enough to realize this, that whenever theaters do open back up and people start going to movies, they need to space this content out. Like, they can't be like, Tenet comes out and Mulan comes out and Bill and Ted comes out, like, all on the same weekend, because, like, that's not going to fly. Like, you literally have to do, like, one at a time, give it 2 weeks time, and then you put the next one out. And that's it. I don't know why the studios do that. And I mean, the smaller studios like Amazon too have been shooting themselves in the foot by the way that they're handling stuff like that. Like, Blow the Man Down, didn't even know, like, it came out. 7,500, they just buried that. They just threw that out there like a week before. Like, here, we're doing a press day. You want a screener? What is this movie? I don't even know what it is. But yeah, I I love this industry. I love the content that comes out of, most of the content that comes out of it. I want to be able to see it and appreciate it, not stumble upon it. And the reason I bring up this conversation is just because of our nomination list again. I feel like very, very mainstream. I think we would all agree there was a couple surprises in there with like Vast Night and Blow the Man Down. But there was like a lot of movies that were missing. And it just goes to show you that there's just so much content even in here. Like there was no Baby Teeth on our list, no Swallow, no Miss Juneteenth, none of those movies. And like some people put it in, but not enough people watched it. And that just goes to show you that we're even in quarantine, we're still in content overload. There's too much to choose from. And we're only going to focus on the stuff that a lot of money and a lot of advertising goes behind. So that's the reason I wanted to bring that up. All right. Okay, so we're going to close out the show real quick. Rama, we'll start with you. Where can the people find you? And give them a teaser. What's something that you're going to review tomorrow that you can talk about?
All right. So, yes, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ramascreen1. You can follow my rants on Twitter at ramascreen. And some of the reviews that are coming out, of course, this Friday is The Babysitters Club, like I said, and also Netflix Ju-on Origins. It's a prequel horror series, and another romantic comedy movie from Netflix Factory, and a super secret action thriller. Also, you'll know what I'm talking about. So expect to see all those reviews and more on my YouTube channel.
Awesome. And how about you, Tom? Are you doing anything? You got any shows coming up? You writing anything?
Well, right now I've be working on a longer review on The Truth, which will be coming out probably tomorrow. And there's a little film that's opening on Disney Plus on Friday that a few people have heard of, Hamilton. And, I having seen the show early on with this cast, I'm really intrigued to see what the aesthetic difference is in terms of seeing it live with all the advantages it has, and then seeing it on film with the close-up, seeing the actors actually show things that they're doing that you can't see in the 20th row. So it's going to be an interesting mix of what's better, or are they both good? And so I'm going to try and tackle that this weekend. So
no, that's a fantastic idea, man.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious to hear from people too who've seen it. Sometimes it's the first.
He froze there.
Okay.
No, it's okay. Tom, repeat what you just said because you froze, so no one could hear you.
Okay. I'll be very interesting to talk to folks, first timers who haven't seen it in any form or fashion, just to get their reaction to the piece itself, and that'll be fun too.
Yeah, no. One of the things that really stood out to me was like when Rotten Tomatoes did the roundup, they decided to use the quote, like it's like a front row seat to this, and I don't know, and I know I'm spoiled, and I know that I had wonderful opportunities where I used to live in New York, outside of New York, and I got to see shows on Broadway. But there's nothing like a show on Broadway. I mean, I've watched a lot of shows on television. I've watched movie adaptations of shows that I love. But seeing it in the theater, live, watching the performers, producers, the movie's fine. Seeing Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane on the stage doing it, completely different experience and a much better experience. So I was really taken back by the reviews saying like, oh, it's just like, it's like a front row seat. And I'm like, I don't know about that, but I'm with you. I'm going to go watch it on Friday because did not get to see that one early. So we'll check that out there. For me, I have to put out my interview with Mackenzie Davis and Chris Cooper for Irresistible. That will be coming out later this week. And I potentially might be watching the movie that Rama's talking about or hinting at, I did not realize that the embargo is lifting tomorrow, so I guess I need to watch that now. Thanks, Rama. So I'll probably watch that, and it'll probably be a couple days before I review it. But you'll see a tweet from me probably tomorrow about it. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much again for participating. Always fun. Always a pleasure seeing you and hanging out and talking movies and TV. And we'll see you next week right here on Whatcha Watching. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Okay.